tackles it. But, Mr Chair, we will be voting for this bill in the committee stages because overall it's not controversial and we could be improved.
Darian Fenton.
Much. It's a pleasure to take a call on part one of this bill, and particularly around the purpose. Yes, well, we can talk about the mad butcher, but I'd rather talk about this bill, actually. Tau Henare, well, actually, yes, if the member kept up. There have been apologies, but anyway, we are here to talk about the road user charges bill, Mr Chair, and actually the member from Te Atatu might want to be a little bit more concerned about some of the people in his electorate that are concerned about this bill and who've been talking to me about the purpose of this bill and the concerns that they have around the shift from nominated weight to gross weights as a basis for charging road user charges. Now, the member can just yell and yell, but I'm here to talk about the purpose of the Act. And as I said, we support, the Labor supports this bill, but we still have some major concerns that we want to talk about. The first one is the shift from nominated weight to gross weights. And the second part of the purpose of the bill that we're concerned about is the fact that we don't actually get to vote on the changes to this bill and the charges to this bill. And those were the things that came through from the Select Committee that were, the major concerns from the industry. The fact that the regulations will be sent off to the Minister, regulations surrounding the charging for road user charges, the changes to this, and it's a break in the basic democratic principle that there should be no taxation without representation. And, we're tonight debating a bill in the committee stages where we have no final numbers, where the industry still doesn't know what it means, under Part 1 and the purpose when we start to talk about the changes to the road user charges, and in particular the changes that are in part, I think, a little bit further on in part 1, Mr Chair, around the road user charges weight, and that's on page 13 of the bill, where road user charges the weight in relation to a road user charges vehicles changes the calculation from a gross vehicle mass for the road user charges vehicle and to a maximum allowable weight. Now, I just want to mention, Mr Chair, there were a number of submissions. This is the controversial part of the bill. There are two parts of this. One is this, and I'll mention this in a minute, but the second one is about the fact that the charges are going to go through regulation, and regulation will determine what the charges are for truck drivers, who I thought were the friends of the National Party, actually. I thought they were the friends of the National Party, but I think the National Party's got some... If they think that we've got problems with the mad butcher, they should start talking about their problems with the transport industry, actually. And I've been talking to a number of the people in this industry because they don't think... They came to the Select Committee, they made submissions on this bill, Mr Chair, and they have been ignored. And they are extremely concerned because what this is going to do is impose costs on the business that the National Party say that they actually support. And this is road transport, and both in small business and larger business. So they haven't listened. So that's one part of our concern. That's in Part 1 of the bill. Part 1 of the bill is very interesting because it outlines all sorts of interpretations and other things, but that's one concern. And a little bit further on we'll talk about our concern, as I mentioned, about how these costs, these charges from the National Party will be determined by regulation without any sort of reference to this Parliament, Why should the friends of the National Party be having to sign up to the fact that there are... What?
The Warriors.
The Warriors. Oh, look, come on, get over. You should be. The members' officers should be much more worried about their friends in the transport industry. They should be much more worried about that. But I mean, they've got no respect for them. They think they can just sit there opposite. The members opposite can just sit there and make Mr. Chair.
Darren Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And they can make rude comments, and they can make disgraceful comments about things that are completely irrelevant to this bill, and at the same time ignore the major concerns that there are in the industry and the shift from non-nominated weights to gross weights.
Order. Sorry to interrupt the member. We're actually not interested at this time on what's happening on the rugby field or the Warriors. Just concentrate on part one, and can we just continue? Darren Fenton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, well, as I was trying to say, there are things, there's things that we support about this bill. There are things that we think the purpose is sound, but there are things that we are concerned about as well. And we want to make sure that we continue the road user charges system by imposing charges on heavy vehicles and certain other vehicles for the use of the roads in proportion to the cost. And we think it's good that we modernise and simplify the road user charges system, and that we improve compliance with and recovery of road user charges. But however, there are issues that haven't been resolved, that were raised in select committee and are not resolved in the industry either. And I think the members will find, the arrogant members on the other side will find actually that there are quite a lot of people in the transport industry that aren't very happy about that. This issue has not settled down. They have not been listened to, and I think we'll find that the proposals, there's a couple of proposals in this bill that will start to, where there will start to be some agitation around it. We support the move to a 21st century electronic road user charges system, and we should be using whatever technology is available to us, but the move from nominated weights to gross weights for the setting of road user charges is still causing quite a lot of angst. And the members opposite can laugh and sneer and do all the other things that they want to do. They can, because they're arrogant and because they just think they don't have to listen to people anymore. They think, they just think that, they can just, as we've seen in the Transport and Industrial Relations Committee, actually quite frequently, when people bring issues of transport safety to their Transport and Industrial Relations issues to the select committee. No, not a great committee. It's got a reputation now for not listening to the people, that bring their issues both through petitions and also through their submissions on part one. So I think that the changes in this bill, while we support them overall, there are concerns. I think it's incumbent on the National Party to start to listen, start to listen to the industry. Oh, well, I mean, maybe David Bennett thinks he doesn't have to listen to anybody. Maybe he thinks, maybe he's got nothing to say, and maybe he's got nothing to say about Hillside either. Maybe that's, because, well, that's true. He doesn't know that. Yes or no, he doesn't know the answers to either of those. But I find the committee stages of this bill, and particularly part one, particularly interesting because, as I said, Labor has concerns about two aspects of this bill, and we have continued to say what they are. We will vote overall for this bill, but we are concerned about some things in this bill, and they came to the select committee and there were very, very strong submissions from submitters. National Party has chosen to ignore them, and those two things are in part one, the shift from nominated weights to gross weights as the basis for charging for road user charges, and a little bit further on the bill, the fact that we can't actually vote on the level of road user charges that will be applied because that will be established later by regulation. And I have to say that the conversations that I've had in the industry is a real concern about it. real concern about the fact that this government is so arrogant that it thinks it can decide on charges without consultation, without any proper process through this House, and the National Party is so arrogant about these things, but underlying all this, Bill, there is some real concern about the move to from driver-nominated rates to ghost rates, and the industry is looking for some real respect from this Parliament in listening to what they have said about the change in the gross nominated rates.
The Honourable Simon Power.
I move that the question be now put.
The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Party votes called for. I'll ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
57 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
42 votes opposed.
Green Party.
9 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
5 votes in favour.
Māori Party.
Whakahean.
Progressive.
1 vote opposed.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Mana.
1 vote in favour.
Any other votes?
Members, the ayes are 73, the noes are 46. The question will be put. We first have the Minister's amendments as set out on SOP number 287. The question is that the Minister's amendments be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Part 1 is amended stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Members, we now move to debate on Part 2, Clauses 7 to 47 and Schedule 1. The question is that Part 2 stand part. The Honourable Shane Jones.